We'll be so high that it won't matter. It's just more of like she literally was like walking in front of the couple and behind the couple on the first row, and it's just like you're blocking the guest side, you know. It was just kind of, I've never seen anything like that before, but it's like usually we go up like 2 or 3 rows, and that's about it. It's really all you need, and like flanking the sides and the back and all that. So because I mean that would be like a chest bump.
If you need to, you can.
And be able to say it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to is to just be happy and now. So I'm going to give you a little walk. Yeah. Chair off and okay. Got it.
We'll get through it.
Okay. Right.
It's never like this.
I want to know what shot you have. Just like,
Special day in many ways. It's okay that way.
so you think I'll be good on the 70? Stay on it.
Yes, please. Just do that.
We'll make it work.
And then they'll be coming down. I don't know if we're going to move them. I think you're going to.
Okay, this can't move. So.
No, you're good.
We'll take half. You can just tell everybody that we're getting started, or we tell the officials what time we're getting started, so they'll sit.
Can you unlock your phone one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just right.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's my password is 20. No. Should be. Oh, it's the. I'm a 13, so I don't know, but I guess
Oh, yeah, it's just saying.
the 7th one you've used.
The 7th iPhone, yeah. Okay. Yeah, just, it should look better.
I'm gonna leave it there. So my password is 2022. So it's like, yeah, it was 22.
Yeah, there we go. That looks better already.
Okay. All right. Officiant. Can you turn your mic on or do something for a second? I'd like you to let everybody know we're going to start the okay.
I'll regulate it.
You can regulate it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please go ahead and find your seats down below. We're getting ready to start shortly. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And
Please be seated. We are gathered here today before closest friends, family, and God to join Kevin and Tiffany Green in holy matrimony. Across every culture, throughout time, this innate understanding of a foundational bond to be created between two people and held fast forevermore has never had to be taught, imposed, or pressed to yet be upheld. Since the creation of Adam, the understanding that he would need a partner was stressed, and this need is as inseparable from the flesh as the very need for water. Therefore, it is not to be entered into unadvisedly or lightly, but reverently and soberly. My name is Ethan Wyndham. I met Kevin Green on the playground of Stewart Elementary School in Bradenton, Florida, circa 1998. Woo! Through different schools, careers, life plans, and states, he has remained one of my best and most steadfast friends. And I always knew Kev would find his perfect match. Meeting Tiffany was surprising all the same, that their lives have woven together further. Tiffany has quickly and fully become not someone else's significant other, but my true friend. A common reading at wedding ceremonies is from the Apostle Paul, the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Profound as they are, these words were written not to lay the foundation of a marriage, the highest declaration of love and commitment, but were written with the intent to be applied to how one treats a neighbor, a stranger, any other. How much more then does it mean to be wed? If these are the standards which we are expected to exhibit to all others, how much greater must one's love be to commit to a higher standard? And what is that benchmark to be measured? Whereas in the English language it is acceptable to say, I love my spouse, I love my mom, I love Paul Rudd, I love these breadsticks. The verb love represents something very different in each of these statements, or at least one would hope. The English language, in fact, is generous in its application of the word love, with that the magnitude of what it represents can be skewed based on context. The Greek language, however, avoids this issue by categorizing love into a number of separate words. The word storge represents the love between a parent and child, mentor and mentee. It is a love of equal affection and asymmetric responsibility. The word philia represents fondness, love of friends, music, environment. It is characterized by an irrevocable return to the warm feeling linked to that person, place, or thing, even if there have been days, months, or years since it was last felt. The word eros represents a unique, romantic, butterfly feeling one would have for a spouse and partner. And while often associated with marriage, given its specific applicability, marriage does not stop with eros. The final word used by the Greeks when describing love is agape. This is sacrificial love, and it innately represents the highest magnitude and standard of expressing selflessness. It is to give without need or expectation for a return. It is a charity that sets aside one's own desires for the desires of another, one's own needs to tend to the needs of another, one's own life to help the life of another. Of all the parallels and references to marriage in the Bible, perhaps the most common is the people of God being referred to as the bride of Christ. How fitting is it then that we should have an example of spousal love like no other? A God who saw our pain and humbled himself to don flesh and suffer as we were. A God who saw the failings and flaws of his spouse and still claimed that even the worst of them was worth his own life. A God who loved those who crucified him despite their own actions. This love is the standard. This love is the expectation. In your most trying days and at your most trying times, when no other word for love rings true, this agape must yet hold to each other as it was held from God. Tiffany and Kevin met in December of 2015 through a mutual friend. While playing video games at his friend's house, Kevin was advised that his friend's roommate might walk back at some point. Enter Tiffany, stunning as ever. Kev sat up straighter, tried to look taller than he actually is, and likely flexed his pecs just enough to tense his shirt before walking over for a handshake. It would be another 8 months and move to and from Texas before these two would begin dating, but it didn't take long for them to know that it was meant to be. With each joke, nod, and ridiculously obscure reference to an Adam Sandler movie that only these two would know, they have only become closer and closer. It was as if they were stuck in a dream. Together, they celebrated the attainment of 3 degrees, the acceptance into 2 master's programs, the procural of 3 competitive nursing positions, and the commissioning into 2 branches of the armed forces. Together, they have endured cleaning up after 2 puppies, arguing about whether or not it was worth it to evacuate from 2 hurricanes, moving to 2 separate states, and spending a grueling 10 months, 3,000 miles apart on account of military service. And despite it all, after every 12-hour shift Tiffany champions through at the height of the pandemic, Kevin asks, "How are you doing?" And after every whatever it is Kevin claims he does but can't prove, Tiffany also asks, "How are you doing?" And if this is indicative of nothing else, it shows care for each other, concern for each other, an intent to bridge the occupational difference spanning from the farthest star to the tiniest embryo, just to come together and make sure the other's cup is full. So when they should ask, "How are we doing?" I would be quick to respond, "As good as it gets." Kevin and Tiffany, intentional and well-spoken as they are, have elected to write their own vows to one another to be shared in front of this company now.
Today is the day I have prayed for, not because I have always dreamt of what my wedding would look like, who would be there, or even who the man standing across from me would look like. But because from the moment I met you, I knew that you would be a steadfast and immovable presence in my life. And shortly after that, knew that you would be the man that I would marry. I remember the exact moment that I called my mom on the phone after you left my apartment to drive all the way back to Palm Harbor and told her that I was in love with you, which, I mean, you can ask her, that's a pretty big deal for me. And while I thought I knew what loving you meant in that moment, over the past 6 years, my love for you has taken many forms and has grown beyond what I thought was even capable for a human being to have. As we stand here together in front of those whom we cherish, I want to say that this is a love that has moved mountains and has weathered immeasurable storms. This is a love that fosters individual growth and dreams without fear of growing apart. And ultimately, this is a love that is timeless. It is my sincerest vow to honor our love by simply continuing the promises made from the first day I said I love you. A promise to be your best friend, your biggest admirer, and your most loyal confidant. A shoulder to bear your burdens and an embrace to share in your times of triumph. Your safe space, your home, and your adventure of a lifetime. It is said that to love someone long term is to attend 1,000 funerals of the person they used to be and attend 1,000 births of the person that they are becoming. In every iteration of who we will be, I will choose you, honor you, and love you. You're my quest and my greatest love. I love you so much.
The book wasn't going to work. Not for lack of trying. My most precious Tiffany. Everyone expresses themselves a bit differently. The baker bakes, the singer sings, and in my case, the orbital warfare officer does math. But that's not always enough. To that end, 871,921. Each year, close to 4 million tourists visit the Taj Mahal in India. This mesmerizing mausoleum, made of white marble, represents one of the greatest architectural achievements. It is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. The Taj Mahal also serves as a beautiful testament of love shared between the 5th Mughal Emperor, Shah Jahan, and his wife, Mumtaz Mahal. These two shared a wonderful life. But in July of 1631, Mumtaz Mahal passed away during childbirth. Stricken with grief and out of devotion to his late wife, Shah Jahan commissioned the construction of the extraordinary Taj Mahal to honor her memory. Completed in 1648, the masterpiece remains a gem of Muslim art and a magnificent expression of love. But this was not enough, not to describe love. 871,921. Marie and Pierre Curie's relationship represents a marriage of true minds. Born in Poland in 1891, Marie Curie met Pierre after she enrolled at the Sorbonne University of Paris. The two physicists were a perfect pair, sharing their passion for science and research. The couple eventually won 2 Nobel Prizes in 1903 and 1911 for their research and discovery of radioactivity, which I appreciate, making Marie Curie the first woman to earn such an achievement. But despite these achievements, they are not enough to demonstrate the power of love. 871,921. My favorite hymn of all time, The Love of God, was written by Friedrich M. Lehman in 1917. Lehman was a California businessman who had recently lost everything and some deals gone wrong at the time that he wrote the song. He was working long days of manual labor in Pasadena, packing oranges and lemons into wooden crates, trying to get back on his feet. One Sunday, however, he was so moved by the sermon on the love of God that he had trouble going to sleep, frantically writing down the first 2 verses to express his emotion. Hymns, however, were considered incomplete without at least 3 stanzas at the time. As he struggled to find a third verse, he remembered a poem someone had written him years before, which they had seen carved onto a prison wall. He had kept the poem on a card used as a bookmark. At the bottom of the card, Lehman found this written. Could we with ink the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above would drain the ocean dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. Of the ways to describe love, though incomplete, I find this to be the best, as it recognizes the very folly in trying to describe love. Not even this is enough. 871,921. If I could tell you how I felt about you, we wouldn't need to be here right now. Poets have labored for centuries to describe what love is. They've compared it to and cross-referenced its qualities against any and every which miracle of nature, yearning for that one perfect, all-encompassing way to describe and express that which eludes description. Songwriters have gone mad toiling at their craft, hoping to induce similar emotions. Sculptors and painters alike whiling away days, months, and years of their lives, hoping to satisfy this endeavor. Playwrights have dedicated entire genres to this theme, and despite it being told and rehashed again and again in story after story, it's never enough. In the end, a subtle truth, pervasive throughout nearly every culture, has been accepted, that this is a sentiment that cannot be accurately and fully captured, fully contained, fully expressed, or fully confined by any single art, action, or testament. As such, the prospect of marriage has been deemed the best and only recourse to satisfy this, that the only way to experience love is to experience it, to live it. The only way to express it is to spend every moment trying to do so, and to accept that these each are moments well spent, to experience all ups and downs, all sickness and turmoil, all joy and jubilance, all victory and loss, all trial and tribulation, all celebration and grief, all mourning and recovery, hoping that one day that moment might come where the intersection of what can be expressed and what can be understood occurs, and your partner might finally get a glimpse of how you feel when she walks in a room. How you feel when she believes in you when you didn't believe in yourself. How you feel when she comes home upset from work and you have to pretend that you're angry too for solidarity. Even though your dogs get to wag their tails in celebration, which is what you'd actually like to do. How it feels to come home myself, weary and tired from overseeing a literal planet of problems, emotionally steeled and stilled to ensure machine precision, to take a deep breath in the car, march lifelessly to the door, stand on a welcome mat that says, "Hello there." Gotta do the Star Wars quote. And then open the door to a movie marathon you're sharing with our dogs. And all of a sudden, nope, the whole world looks so small because the whole world becomes that one room. What that's like is to feel again. As best I can gather and describe what love is like is to feel again. It's for warmth to come back into one's hands and for color to flood back into their cheeks. It's not a race through tasks or life to prove oneself, but to go as slow as necessary to get through the day, the hour, the minute, just to ensure it's done together so you can be there to celebrate the other's victory. It's to be vulnerable, to be human, to be humble, to make mistakes, to be flawed and hurt, and to be there at the end of it anyways. 871,921. C.S. Lewis once said, "I believe in God as I believe in the sun, not because I can see it, but because by it I can see all else." If love is to be considered synonymous with God, then by extension, I would submit in the very same vein, I believe our love not because I can see it, but because by it I can see everything else. I've in the past described life as a museum, and love as a lantern by which we view its contents. Fumbling in the dark, able to appreciate whatever works can be seen by squinting only in part, but finally able to appreciate this masterpiece in its entirety when love is there to illuminate it. 871,921. So as to put this metaphor to the test, I'll propose a thought experiment of extreme nihilism. Welcome to my TED Talk. Even to assume the most nihilist outlook on life, to see it from a purely physical sense, to believe that life and death are the period at the end of it all, and all we are is an anomaly of cells that teamed up to form multi-cell creatures hurtling through space at 67,000 miles per hour, and the only purpose in all that is universal entropy. That is the innate state of matter where all that burns, burns out, and all that moves will stop, and we're just along for the ride as a means to an end. Even if all that were true, how wonderful it is that part of that process is us being here right now. How wonderful it is, here in the present, the very climax of all time, in being together we are fulfilling the very purpose of the universe, meaning that in part we are meant to be here. How wonderful it is that even if there were no divine purpose or higher power, not that I believe that just that the brain is the only self-aware organ in the body, we get to be the only self-aware organ of the universe. And if that were the case, how wonderful it is then that you would spend even a second overlooking all the universe has to offer and to look at me instead. 871,921. Time is an angle. Angle. Or rather, the most ancient benchmarks we've used to describe it are angles. For every 239.34 seconds, the Earth rotates about the K vector that goes through the North Pole 1 degree. You know this.
It's because you know.
This change in the sun's position relative to the viewer became the benchmark for how humanity measured time until we eventually moved to cesium and rubidium as the standard. As of this minute, I've lived on this Earth a total of 3,832,831 degrees. But I've only been alive for 871,921 of those degrees. And that is because 871,921 degrees ago I met you. Above all else, this is my vow, to remember this moment and live in such a way that I try at all times to express to you how you've made me feel in this moment. I'm confident I can do this for 2 reasons. 1, I wrote it down. 2, I will remember to live each moment with you, not wasting a single degree of the journey to come, to embrace each sunset with you, as it is only you that can illuminate the very sun to me. And should it come to pass that I must travel this earth without you, to remember those sunsets that we had, as it is those memories which will yet illuminate the world. And should it come to pass that I've seen my last sunset, to sleep peacefully, knowing that I will wake and view the sunrise with you again. My vow is to live my life trying to express the way that I feel today, to trace the emotions again and again, and to endeavor to do that, or to do what all great men do, to spend every resource, to crunch every number, to write every song, to paint every picture, to endure every evil, to tend to every ailment, hoping that it might express even a glimpse of how I feel about you. To die trying, and most importantly, to live trying forever, as I have, for 871,921 degrees.
The hand fasting ceremony has its roots in ancient Celtic tradition and dates as far back as 7000 BC. In ancient Ireland, when 2 people chose to be married, they were brought together to have a braided cord or ribbon tied around their hands, hence the phrase, tying the knot. This act indicates the binding of these two people's lives. The cord itself, woven of their dreams, hopes, and desires, held upright by both individuals' commitment to hold the other's future in reverence through the unbreakable act of wedlock. Once tied, this cord will serve as a reminder to this moment, to this day, where your hands were when it was tied, where your heart is now as well.
We're going to get that badge.
Just want to take this moment as well to point out that Kevin was also supposed to write his vows in a notebook about this big, and he drastically failed that assignment.
I would expect nothing else.
Yeah.
Tiffany and Kevin, you have come together this day so that the Lord may seal and strengthen your love in the presence of this community of family and friends. And so, in the presence of this gathering, I ask you to state your intentions. Have you both come here freely and without reservation to give yourselves to each other in marriage? If so, answer by saying, I have.
I have.
I have.
Wonderful. Let me take this from you.
Take your wrist.
A ring is an unbroken circle with ends that have been joined together, and it represents your union. It is a symbol of infinity and of your infinite love. When you look at these rings on your hands, be reminded of this moment, your commitment, and the love you now feel for each other. Kevin, place the ring on Tiffany's finger and repeat after me. Tiffany, I give you this ring
Tiffany, I give you this ring
as a symbol of my love,
as a symbol of my love,
with the pledge to love you today, tomorrow, always, and forever.
with the pledge to love you today, tomorrow, always, and forever.
Tiffany, place the ring on Kevin's finger and repeat after me. Kevin, I give you this ring
Kevin, I give you this ring
as a symbol of my love,
as a symbol of my love,
with the pledge to love you today, tomorrow, always, and forever.
with the pledge to love you today, tomorrow, always, and forever.
Those whom God has joined together, let no man separate. Before these friends and family, you have pledged to be joined in marriage now and forever. By the authority vested in me by your decision to make me do this, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride.